Welcome to Transcending the Rabbit Hole. I'm Brandy Anderson. I'm a spiritual director and Jungian coach on an ever-winding contemplative path of becoming. I'm the author of Through the Veil, A Glimpse into the Afterlife, and co-host of Spectral Symposium podcast. I'm joined today by my very good friends and co-hosts, Annelise and Parker Bess. Annelise is a singer-songwriter, sound healer, and spiritual influencer dedicated to raising human consciousness as she shares her awakening journey on TikTok. Parker is a true knowledge seeker and truth bringer in the realm of esoteric wisdom. Parker has a solid understanding of metaphysical concepts with expertise in the shadowy corridors of secret societies, occult knowledge, and ancient aliens and ufology. We invite you to pry open your third eye and journey with us through the cosmic rabbit hole as we alchemize esoteric insights in a quest for ultimate truth.
Falling down the rabbit hole again.
Welcome back to another episode of Transcending the Rabbit Hole. Today we're going to be diving into a topic that many find challenging, navigating relationships, especially our closest relationships. As we awaken and deconstruct, aspects of our faith can be difficult. Coming out of the spiritual closet is a really tender place to be. Navigating this space when the people closest to you are against it can feel like walking a tightrope between truth and belonging. So today we're going to talk about some ways to navigate this space with wisdom. So without further ado, Annelise and Parker, it's a privilege to transcend this rabbit hole with you guys.
Hey, Brandy, good to be here.
Hey, Brandy.
Hey.
Great to be here.
Yeah, this is a topic that a lot of people will probably benefit from. I think, Annelise, I was going to invite you to kind of kick us off because I know you've had people, asking you for an episode like this.
Yes, this is one of the discussion topics that I'm asked to address the most amongst the TikTok community. That is how to navigate relationships with loved ones after spiritual awakening. At one point in time, it was the very fear of losing the relationships with my own loved ones that kept me from diving deeper into this infinite rabbit hole of spiritual awakening. But God led me onward. The universe pushed me onward to where I did have to conquer that. It's a continual path of conquering, though. I don't think anyone can totally conquer it, but I think you can transcend it. Everybody here at Transcending the Rabbit Hole, we know what it's like to be outcast for walking in truth, for being obedient to the call of the Spirit, to live as your most authentic self, just as Christ has called you to be. And it makes me think of the passage in John 15, 18 to 21, where Jesus says, "If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. Remember what I told you. A servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also. If they obeyed my teaching, they will obey yours also. They will treat you this way because of my name, for they do not know the one who sent me." And I think that's kind of the root of the divide between family and those coming out of a spiritual awakening is so many don't know the one who sent Jesus. Like we think we do, or they think they do. They think they've got it figured out, but if we're living in that duality lifestyle, if we're not accepting and not loving and all those things, then we definitely haven't figured it out. So our hope today is just to offer our personal insights and self-tested solutions for navigating the complexity of relationships after a spiritual awakening. And we'll also be announcing some exciting upcoming community outlets that we've designed exactly for this Transcending the Rabbit Hole community. So I thought maybe to start things off, we could talk a little bit about the relational challenges that arise for those who have experienced a spiritual awakening, be it a spouse, family, parents, children, friends, your church community. I'm going to kind of open it up to y'all first because I've said a lot here, but what do y'all have to say about just those relational divides that undoubtedly come up in this walk?
Yeah, for me, as you were speaking, Annelise, the words of Jesus in Matthew 10 came to mind, where he said, "I have not come to bring peace, but a sword." And the sword, is not necessarily literal conflict, but rather a metaphor for the divisions and challenges that Jesus's message would create, even within families. Specifically, I would say within families, it's our closest relationships that are usually affected most by an awakening such as that. So, I loved what you had to say, in regards to how we're navigating that. It's like a delicate balance. like I said earlier, between truth and belonging. And so it can be difficult, really difficult to navigate this space. So I think it's a great topic to dive into today.
Yes.
Absolutely. Me too. I just want everybody to know, I said this in a previous podcast as well. If you are having problems of the sort of what we're going to talk about, we are building a community here at Transcending the Rabbit Hole where we're trying to have anybody who is seeking knowledge like this or just really likes to listen to the podcast or whatever, just come be a part of us. And, we're all on the same path here. So,
Yeah, and we'll get into more details about that too at the end. I'm excited about that.
Me too.
One of the reasons that I kind of slowed down my own awakening a few years ago was because I was really worried that I'd lose relationships with my family in particular. I was worried that they wouldn't be able to accept what I knew as truth, and therefore they'd cut me off from their life. And thankfully that did not happen, I'm glad to say, but it has, undoubtedly there have been some shifts and some difficulties arise between family, friends, and so but one of the ones I hear the most on TikTok is with a spouse. And I think that can be one of the deepest types of rifts on this journey because, you want to share everything with your spouse. You want to share the same worldview, the same spiritual walk, but that doesn't always happen. Gosh, it might not often happen. So, what are y'all's thoughts on how we can help people, I guess, walk through that when it's with a spouse?
Yeah, I think I definitely think spouse relationships are the most difficult to navigate when we're not on the same page. And I thought it would be a good idea to maybe address deconstruction, or the word deconstruction, because we call it spiritual awakening often here on this podcast. But the buzzword out there in spiritual circles is deconstruction for people who are maybe in a Christian faith, and then they have this sort of awakening experience. And it causes them to sort of deconstruct the faith that they have already built. And so deconstruction is a term coined to describe the process of spiritual awakening by those plugged into the church already. Because when we experience an awakening like that, we're compelled to question long-held beliefs as it relates to ultimate reality. But I just wanted to say that deconstruction isn't about destruction. It's about clearing space for what is real and true. So I just want to encourage anyone entering into that space of questions and desiring more, desiring truth at all costs, to honor your inner voice. Your desire to question, seek, and grow is not rebellion. It's sacred. The curiosity is there to pull us into further growth and evolution. And those who never question or seek often shame others for questioning and seeking. But in reality, those whose beliefs remain static over many years are the ones who are missing the boat. So I just want to say that life is a journey and not a destination. And we should be continually expanding our awareness, and our beliefs should be evolving along in ways that bring us into a more expansive way of seeing and being in the world. So honor your inner voice, embrace the inner pull into something more, and when you feel ready, express what you intuit already. And I would also encourage you to give yourself language for what you wish to express. And what I mean by that is it's important for you to determine the narrative for your awakening and not those around you. So don't let people around you label and define your experience. Journaling about it might help before actually speaking about it to others. But I think finding our language can be really liberating. For example, you might say, I'm not losing my faith, I'm deepening it. Or I'm reevaluating my beliefs in search of deep truth. Or you might say, I'm on a journey of becoming, I'm growing, and my beliefs are shifting to reflect that growth. However you decide to articulate it, it's just important that you define your own terms. And it's not uncommon for those who don't understand your awakening to paint it in a negative light and even try to scare or shame you back into conforming to their way of processing things. So, yeah, just sit with it and hold space for that deeper calling within yourself and put language to it that properly reflects the experience that you're having.
I love that. Thank you.
Okay.
I needed that reminder. It's like I said, it's a continual walk. It's back last summer, I asked that I said, make me less of a people pleaser. Well, really help me not be a people pleaser at all is what I prayed.
Yeah.
And then went on to this journey, this accidental deconstruction journey, and then sharing about it and finding out it's a little more of a bumpy ride than I expected, but it's also empowering to get to a place where you can set boundaries with people, to accept you as you are, just as you accept them as they are.
Yeah.
And but it's a difficult journey for sure.
It is. And, I think it's important too to choose when and when not to share. Use discernment on, you don't owe everyone your full spiritual process. And some people can only hear through a lens of fear and control anyway, and that isn't your burden to bear. So just let them be where they are without getting tangled up in their drama. And a great litmus test for whether a conversation is worth the investment of your energy at all is to ask, is this conversation about connection or is it about convincing? And if it's the latter, just opt out with grace. And I mean, I do realize, though, that when it comes to our most intimate relationships, it can be more complicated than that, because sharing our spiritual process with people whom we have been traditionally very close with is inevitable. So it's important to create a space where you can both share openly without judgment. And so really, that's just something that both parties need to be interested in cultivating for it to really work, I think.
Yeah.
That's very well said, Brandy. I want to add to that, we as people only have so much energy to spend on things throughout the day, and sometimes trying to force somebody to move along in that way that we're trying to get them to go is very taxing on your energy or our energy. And sometimes that's best for your own spiritual growth as a person, and it's hard to know, like discernment, like Brandy was just saying, when it comes to your spouse, though, that is a very hard subject with that.
Yeah, that's the one I'm hearing the most is, but it's my spouse.
Yeah.
I even had one woman, it broke my heart. She said, you're changing my life, and I'm a pastor's wife, and it's getting hard.
Oh,
And that just broke my heart, because, I mean, you don't want to walk away from your spouse because you're on a different spiritual journey, but they may be even threatening that, especially if you have kids. And now they're like, well, how are you going to be teaching our children? Big questions come up. And, I know it's so frustrating because it feels really hypocritical. It's like, you think I'm in the wrong. You are, viewing me as the problem here, as the one who is woken up to the illusion. But it's you who need to wake up, but you love them. So it's like, there's so much to work through. And I think a solution that I'd offer for especially a spouse is just setting the boundary that you need them to love you where you are at in your spiritual walk, just as you commit to love them where they are at. So you will not aim to change them or rush their spiritual walk or push an awakening on them. And in return, you ask that they don't try to slow yours down or have you conform back to their belief system, and just assure them that you're walking in love. You're walking in the light of Christ. That's literally, you're doing what Jesus asked you to do. And just like it didn't fly with the church 2,000 years ago, it doesn't fly with the church today. And sometimes it doesn't fly with our religious family. And it's painful, but you don't have to lose that person. Just number one, I'd say set that boundary of, I need you to accept me and love me where I am, and I'm going to do the same for you. And I think that's a great place to start, at least.
yeah. I think that's wonderful advice. And one thing that was coming up for me when you were saying that is, I think it's important also to seek common ground, because it can feel so threatening to someone if they feel like someone that they are really close to, such as a spouse, is departing from foundational shared beliefs. It's frightening. So it's important, I think, to identify values, beliefs, and practices that you both still share. And so that can help create like a foundation for mutual understanding and help assure your spouse or your loved one that your awakening doesn't mean complete divergence from your shared life together.
Yes.
And I also think emotional connection is important. That's another way of kind of cultivating, the foundation that you need to build upon, I think it's a good idea to be mindful of that, your emotional connection. In other words, continue to cultivate emotional intimacy in other dimensions of your relationship. Like regularly express appreciation and love to reinforce that your spiritual journey does not diminish your care for your loved one. And really, I mean, the awakening journey is a journey of awakening into love, right? So if you're in a relationship with someone who is resistant to your journey, this can be used as a spiritual practice. I mean, how loving can you be as you navigate this space? If you can be a light in the midst of their inability to hold space for where you are, that will likely speak much louder than if you put energy into explaining or convincing. I know when I had my spiritual awakening back in 2014, I remember feeling anxiety about sharing with my husband what had happened to me. And at first, I just sort of kept that to myself. But eventually, I had to share it. I mean, he was noticing things anyway. And so at some point, you have to say, hey, this is happening to me. And I've truly had awakening upon awakening since then. Initially, I was pulled into the church, but then I quickly shifted into deconstruction as I pursued truth at all costs. So I've had many pivotal moments in my own journey that shifted my beliefs. And I had a paranormal encounter is also a part of my journey. So kudos to my husband for sticking around through all of that, for sure. But I just say all of this to say that we are perpetually all in flux, all of us, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. And authentic connection means embracing change, allowing the other to evolve and grow, because to remain in a static state, unchanging, is death. And so, yeah, many of my relationships have deepened as I've remained true to myself and showed up authentically, because to awaken spiritually means embracing love. And so I'm simply better able to cultivate more authentic connection as a result of my awakening. But I have lost some people who I considered close along the way. And that's just the nature of honoring your own journey. Not everyone will understand or be able to hold space for you. But, I would just say if you're listening to this and you're struggling but can't seem to find some balance and connection in this regard, I do want to say up front that therapy might not be a bad idea. Because, sometimes we're too caught up in our own egoic material to see clearly how to find some balance. So having someone on the outside can help navigate that space, and it can be really helpful. And also it might be not a bad idea to maybe look into spiritual direction or something like that if you don't want to do therapy. Just someone to come alongside you in your journey and help you kind of, navigate the difficulties, that you may be facing.
And the best spiritual coach is right here on this podcast.
That's right. That's right. And we could direct people to that the Facebook page, Awakening Allies. It's not a therapist, but it's at least a community of people walking through this and supporting one another.
Yeah,
And it's a cool place to get to know other people. All of this, like everything you were saying, I got that verse popped up in my head from Luke where Jesus says, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. And I've heard sermons preached on that get it so wrong. So it was one of my last sermons to hear, I think, was on that. And it from my viewpoint, had totally missed the boat. I'm like, no, I think what Jesus is saying is, unless you are willing to walk away from what your father, mother, brother, sister, uncle, teacher, neighbor, pastor thinks of you for my name's sake, for to follow in love, then you can't be my disciple. That's what that verse means, I believe. And it's really hard to do. And we're all doing it here, though. Like everyone right here on this podcast talking has had to do it. And I've had a real comical journey doing it because I've put it on TikTok. And it's just, the comments you get when you start sharing this stuff, people will say the nastiest things. And people that once followed you for maybe, for in my case, it was music, they drop like flies when it's for something deeper and more spiritual and something authentic that goes against the grain. Like that makes people uncomfortable. And so we're with you. Nobody here is just blowing smoke. We're doing the same journey with our loved ones, our family, our friends, our church community. Leaving church is another relationship aspect, I think, of this that's really hard to navigate for some. That comes with its whole own strings that maybe we can get into. But Brandy, do you have any thoughts on that? Because I know you had a similar journey, having to leave a church community. Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I had plugged into the church as a result. I had the awakening first. And so I wasn't in church when I had my initial awakening. So I had this awakening, and then I plugged into church thinking, oh, I need answers. I need truth. And so the church is where I'll find that. And then I came to see that, no, I came to the end of that exhausted from all of my seeking and studying and searching, and quickly shifted away from that and more into a more, I would say, mystical or contemplative space, which I'm still in that space. But I have completely transcended the church, and I tried so hard to be a part of church. Like, I tried multiple denominations. I really wanted to make it work. So yeah, for me, it was not, I probably didn't have that sense of loss that some people have who are like maybe raised in the church and all of their social interactions are centered around the church, and maybe all of their friends and family are in the church. I didn't have that situation personally, so I didn't feel bereft, in leaving the church. In fact, it was a relief. I felt like coming up for air, honestly. It was like a breath of fresh air. It's like, whew, I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore. Thank God,
Oh, that's how I felt too.
Yeah, I have a lot more peace on this side of things. But for most people, it is a situation where they're having to navigate a sense of loss, deep loss for what they have believed, their beliefs around God, their community, all of it. And it can be unmooring. And I think I would just say deconstructing faith is not just an intellectual endeavor, it's also emotional. So it's normal to feel some anxiety as you navigate the losses. And you may feel that you've lost a sense of safety that you had in long-held beliefs. See, that's the thing for me. Like, as I began my journey, I created some beliefs along the way, and then I had to deconstruct those beliefs. And so for me, it was like that safety net of, what if I pull this thread on this belief? Where is that it's gonna unravel? And then what kind of foundation will I have? But we can also feel a sense of loss of identity, which for people who are really plugged into the church, that's the case, because your whole identity is centered around the evangelical or whatever belief system. But we were all coming from more of an evangelical system or faith tradition. But also a loss of certainty, and not to mention that loss of community that we already were talking about. And I think the most profound loss might be that loss of a certain familiar version of God. So, there are various aspects of awakening that leave us with a sense of loss, and it's painful on all these different levels. And I just want to emphasize the importance of grieving these losses properly, of feeling your feelings through it all. It's okay, and it's totally normal to feel sadness for the things that dissolve through an awakening. The mystics refer to this as the dark night of the soul. And but just know that it's only a season. As Maya Angelou so insightfully noted, all storms run out of rain. And so if you're in that season of a dark night of the soul and maybe already have lost some important relationships, you're not alone. And I encourage you to just seek the community like we've been talking about, and just feel your feelings fully, and don't set that aside. Allow yourself to grieve those losses.
That's really powerful. It took me back down my journey that I've been through, because I love hearing y'all just say, oh, it was so great to leave, because I had the hardest time, and I had my spiritual awakening, and then I couldn't just leave. I was on worship team and in children's ministry, and raising my children there, and it took a lot to leave, and when I did, I was so fearful of what it would mean for my reality here in the 3D that I went running back. My husband and I both, Parker and I here, both went running back. He did it for me. He didn't need it. I did. And I needed a little more time, I think, to get comfortable with that transition, because it was a really painful transition, and losing a lot of relationships, because I was very, 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 very plugged in. And losing that social standing of, a nice little church-going citizen. And it was really hard, but we just had an honest meeting with our pastors and told them exactly what had happened to me, at least. It was more my story to share, but They didn't understand, but they were supportive and loving, and said, well, we're here if you need us, kind of thing. So I had to leave it was a very positive church back. It wasn't anything negative. I wasn't running from some awful church story. In fact, during my dark night of the soul after my awakening, it was my small group who supported me with meals and gifts during a horrible, horrible depression while I grappled with all of this new knowledge. And like you said, losing the familiar version of God that I've been taught or programmed with. Yeah, it was them who supported me, but nowhere on that journey could I tell them, if I could only tell you why I'm so depressed right now, but instead I have to keep coming and singing in the choir and, figuring it out. It was so hard and so heart-wrenching, but it got to a point where we just had to leave. And thankfully I have had I have had one really, really good friend from church stick by me and not drop off. And I appreciate that. It's somebody who loves you as you are and does see that you follow Christ, that you're not, the heathen that the system makes you out to be. And so, yeah, walking through a church loss, that's a whole category of its own. But I think the solution I'd offer that I've come to learn is you have to commit to standing strong in your own beliefs without a need for external validation from a large group of people. Because you're not going to get that anymore probably. But in this community, you will. You come to the Awakening Allies page or any Transcending the Rabbit Hole page. We're your people, and we get it. And so just finding new community. And like Brandy says, it's a realignment. When some relationships drop off, higher aligned ones come to you. So, yeah, just get comfortable with knowing the truth that you walk in is truth and not needing a whole system to tell you that you're doing it right. I think that's a big step to take.
Yeah, 100%. That was really well said. And I think, you pointed out something important, that there is no simple formula for navigating an awakening because everyone's experience is subjective and all of our relationships are nuanced. And so like Parker and I, we were kind of relieved to get out of the church because it never resonated. But that's not everyone's story. We're all coming from different perspectives and we're all processing information in different ways. And we all desire community in different ways also. Some people are a lot more social. They need more community, more social interaction than others. And so, everybody's situation is just nuanced. And I want to say it's important to listen to your intuition as you journey along. God, or source, if you prefer that word, speaks to us from within in a still small voice. So cultivate a practice of meditation or centering prayer. Learn to drop out of thought and just be present to whatever is arising in the moment. Because ultimately, everything you need is within you. And navigating difficult situations or strained relationships is best done from a place of groundedness or centeredness. So be compassionate with yourself. Honor what arises within yourself with compassionate curiosity. And I'm sure you've heard the expression, you can't pour from an empty cup. And so the best way to shift our relational connections is not through concepts or arguments or data. It's through love. And we cannot love others until we love ourselves. So allow love to flow through you by making your own inner alignment a top priority. Cultivating an inner atmosphere of loving non-attachment will not only keep us centered, but it also serves as a light to those in our midst, which will often dissolve some of that resistance that others may feel toward us. Because when we press into love, that means letting go of attachment to outcomes too. So even if some relationships dissolve, we'll be better able to navigate that loss if we're going within and prioritizing our own spiritual health and balance. That tension between truth and belonging is so difficult. We spend our entire lives denying our authentic self to belong in this world. And it starts early in childhood, and it's so pervasive that we don't even know we're doing it. So we'll never find real fulfillment in this world, though, until we learn to embrace truth, even if it means we don't always belong.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so powerful.
Yeah, that was great, Brandy.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really good. I want to tell everybody who is listening to this podcast, who is only in it for the knowledge and who's not looking to do like the shadow work or anything like that. I'm telling you right now, I was one of those people. And then I started doing the shadow work. And it just is a life changer. Like, it really is. Like, it changes everything. Just being a typical guy, I just didn't think twice about meditation, to be honest, until I started going on this spiritual path. And, wow, what a difference it makes, in all kinds of situations, whether it be if you're having problems with your spouse or a friend or something. If you go to your quiet place and listen within, like Brandy was saying, man, the amazing answers you get compared to thinking about that as you're going about your day, your head's going 1,000 miles per hour. Just like slow down and listen, just intently, maybe to the birds, or just stay there in a small, quiet mindset. It's amazing the answers that will come.
Yeah, because I love the way you said that, because we do so often want to change the other. In our mind, we're thinking that other person out there is the problem. And if I could just get them to see things my way. And so when you're in a relationship, especially, marriage, or a close relationship like that, when you're both trying to change the other or force your own agenda, it just solidifies the other person. And so really it is about going within. Instead of trying to change the external other, look within yourself and say, what can I do to be okay with where I am currently, where they are currently? It's an allowing everything to be as it is without trying to force outcomes or change people's minds or because that just really takes us down a path that is, it's a negative state to be in. It's not, generally it's not fruitful.
Brandy, you said something in the karma episode that I loved. You said hold space for their level of consciousness.
Yeah.
Like whoever it is, like learn to hold space for their level of consciousness. And I just think that's great. Like that's what we're here to do. And it's hard to do, because you're wanting them to accept you. You're wanting to be given that pat on the back, atta girl, atta boy. You're doing the right thing. We're so proud of you. But if you are on this path, you probably aren't going to get it from many people, at least if you're like one of us here, in the Bible Belt. It's the narrow way. It really is. That's the narrow way. And like Jesus said, like I mentioned at the beginning, if they were ugly to him, if they rejected him, if they didn't accept him, why should we expect differently, really? But I think, too, like not just on individual relationship levels, a spiritual awakening really impacts our relationship with like the collective, like going out to the party scene, going out to the movies, going out to the concerts. Everything just doesn't feel quite as fun as it used to. And I think during the dark night of the soul that, you have to wrestle with that that loss of joy in the matrix, and a loss of now it's hard to connect with people who go out and find joy that way. And that's a loss of the collective relationship. So there's just so many things to walk through, but I think it all comes back to, like you said, cultivate your solitude and mindfulness practices. And what I said, just don't stop needing that external validation and accept others where they're at. And let them know that you need them to accept you where you're at, and y'all can go on together just fine. And I think that's a good formula, at least to get started.
Yeah, that really resonates with me. And I think, like those feelings of isolation that are so prevalent in an awakening. That's what you said that's what people are always articulating to you. That, hey, I feel so lonely. How do I push past this loneliness? But I just want to reiterate that the solitude isn't a punishment. It's a sacred space. When we have these awakenings, I believe that the universe shifts things in that way because you're being invited inward so that you can hear that voice of your own inner soul without distraction. So it's in that silence that we meet our truest selves and the divine within us. It's a necessary season that's preparing you for deeper alignment. So try to embrace it as a rite of passage instead of trying to push through it or fill it with other external things. Try to just sit in that silence, in that solitude, in that loneliness, if you will, and see what's underneath it. Why do you feel so lonely? What's going on under the surface below all of that, that chatter, that mental chatter? Usually it's very cerebral. So yeah, learn to just drop down out of thoughts and just soak in that. And I think it's important to speak into navigating our feelings in this journey. Like I was saying earlier, just feel your feelings in the moment. Allow that loneliness to emerge within you and feel it fully without trying to change it or without trying to change others. Just allow things to be as they are and and see if that doesn't open up into a spacious, peaceful, a more joyous space than if we are chasing those externals. Because really, those people aren't finding real joy in those external activities. It's like the buzz of excitement in the moment, but it'll dissipate. But what you can find within yourself is joy that is unabated. It lasts. It's sustaining joy.
Yeah, and all of my guys out there, when it comes to this, if you just do the shadow work, if you just put the ego aside, I'm talking to the guys just because I am a guy, but you put your ego aside, you put your manliness aside. If you just focus on the inside, it will help so much in a lot of situations. So
That's right. Yeah, I think the question proposed is like how to navigate relationships, but I think it all comes down to you just got to navigate your own inner world, and that will pretty much take care of the relationships.
Yeah, Brandy said in the past episode, like a lot of things that bother you are projections, so
Yeah.
if you do your shadow work, maybe you won't project so much. So
Right. And I feel like too, if we're really loving the other, and to love someone is to allow them to be where they are, right? To hold space for where they are without judgment, with compassion. And when we do that, it really, all of these issues of beliefs, like you believe this and I believe that and we don't believe that, all of that will kind of dissolve, because when you love someone and you're holding space for them in that way, it's really hard for them to be resistant against that. I mean, it's when we make it about concepts, when we come at people with our arguments, with our thoughts, and we're trying to get them to change their mind, get them to see things our way. They put up these walls and they feel, because it's frightening.
It's duality at best.
Right. When you question your beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, you're questioning your very identity. So some people are not ready. And so it's not our job to awaken anyone. We're not trying to force someone to change their minds or to shift into a new way of believing. That's something that's very personal and something that someone has to evolve kind of into. And so we just hold space for people and be a light in the darkness and allow them to have their own inner journey without us trying to manipulate outcomes. I mean, that really is the antithesis of love. If you're trying to control or manipulate or force outcomes, then you are not loving the other. And so maybe, not in all cases, but maybe if you feel resistance, like, I'm having this awakening and my spouse is so resistant. Well, why are they being resistant? Maybe go within and ask yourself, what am I doing to cultivate a space of loving connection between us? Like I said before, I think it's important to have some common ground and to love the other in a way that they feel seen and heard and respected in where they are in their journey.
I've had to learn that lesson on this, to myself, to back off of people and quit trying to wake them up because it'll destroy your relationships. And I know, in my case, I in the beginning, I was so excited about all that I now understood and what was revealed and my spiritual growth, and just I wanted to share it with my loved ones and bring them along, so to speak. And it just overwhelmed them and scared them and put a divide between the two of us. And I had to learn, just keep it surface sometimes, unless they hint that they're ready to maybe speak on a little bit of a deeper topic. And then that's your end. But it makes me think of a kind of just a natural metaphor, butterflies in their cocoons. If you start unfolding their wings before it's time for them to come out, you'll kill them. And I even tried that. I literally tried that with my son's butterflies that we grew from caterpillars. 2 of them came out, and one of them he was struggling to come out. It was really sad. And I spent like an hour doing butterfly surgery, trying to help him open his wings. And even once I got his wings open, it wasn't enough. Like it wasn't the path for him, and he died. And he needed to just stay in that cocoon is my point. And I think accepting that some people need to stay in their cocoons for this lifetime is a really loving thing to do for some people. And it's not your job to wake anybody up, no matter how badly you want them to wake up. You'll kill the butterfly that they are if you do it yourself. And I think that's something that you can do on your own to help others. rather than trying to change them and force them to, pry their eyes open just because yours have been. That's not really a loving thing to do. And
Yeah.
and then, but then I know it's also hard to navigate when the people you love are attacking you for how you are. And that's where you think of Jesus saying, turn the other cheek. Like, I know it sucks. I know that they're the one in the wrong, but turn the other cheek and just love them. And like Brandy said, hold space for where they're at. Don't try to change them. Just love them and love yourself where you're at. Accept yourself and don't quit thinking you need someone else to tell you you're doing it right. Because as long as you think that, you're going to be lacking and wanting and searching and projecting onto others. You don't need anybody to tell you that. You know that. So that's just my 2 cents, I think, on that.
Yeah, I love that. And, as you're speaking about the butterfly, I was thinking about the same metaphor of the chick and the egg. It's like if if it's broken from the inside, then new life emerges. But if you were to break it from the outside, then you destroy the life. And so that really is an apt metaphor for awakening. My awakening, no one awakened to me. It happened. It was an internal from the inside out kind of situation. And I am the kind of person, if someone is pushing a point too hard, even if they're right, I don't want to entertain it. I think most people feel that way because it's off-putting to feel like you're being railroaded or pushed in that regard. So yeah, just take a hands-off approach, and really our actions speak louder than our words anyway, right? If your spouse sees you with joy in your heart, if you can be insulted and let it roll off and love someone in spite of their shortcomings, and they see you having a change that is really bringing you peace and joy, and you're a light, then that's going to be attractive. And so really our greatest spiritual practice are our relationships with our closest people. A lot of people, envision doing meditation, which I highly recommend meditation, or all these other practices to try to come into alignment or whatever. But really our best practices is navigating those very close familial relationships that we're in.
Yeah. Yeah. While you were talking, it made me think of the verse in 1 Peter about, wives, submit to your husbands so that if any of them do not believe the word, they be won over without words by the behavior of their wives. Now, I'm not going to get into a verse on submitting to husbands or not. That's not my point here. My point is that they may be won over not by your words, but by your behavior. So if you've got, for example, if you've got a super religious husband, maybe he's even a pastor, and he's not, he's walking in line with the system of religion. He's walking in line with what the seminary told him to walk in line with, but he's not walking in line with that spirit of Christ, that authentic living, that understanding of who God is. And you are, to me, I take this verse to mean don't berate him with all the reasons you need to do what I'm doing. Instead, just be the light, love him where he's at, and do your thing, do your inner work, do your meditation time and your spiritual practices, and let him see you oozing joy, love, and, let him see just you attracting such great things in your life because you're in line with the will of love. And that's how a spouse could be won over. That's my little esoteric way of taking that verse in 1 Peter. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think submission, it often gets framed in a negative connotation, which it can be used that way in churches also. In some of these denominations, that submit to your husbands is very much a like your husband lording it over you or whatever. But I believe that, as people who are following Christ, we should be submitting to others in general. And by submission, I mean just be, flexible. Not be so rigid and dogmatic and pushing our point. Allow the other person to be as they are. And so submit to people in a way that they feel seen and heard and loved. And that will cultivate, more of an awakening in that other person than anything else you could do, 100%.
Absolutely. And it all goes back to duality as well. Think about the church, or just think about any religion. When they go to evangelize or to just get you in it, just shove it down your throat pretty much. Does that make you want to do that? Does that make you want to go and listen to this person? But when they see you living it out and they see you being the light love and just being your highest self, they are going to see that and want to be a part of that. Not see you say 5,000 prayers a day, just, in like some kind of like, oh my gosh, if I do this, then I'll be whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. But if they see you acting the way of the light, your highest self, they will want to be that themselves. Anybody will.
Yeah. That's very well said. And I think also, as we were talking, I started to think, I think a great use of that solitude that people tend to have, when they begin to awaken and they feel that isolation and maybe some relationships drop off, or maybe their relationships are still there, but they feel disconnected or like they can't share, like certain aspects of what's going on. It's like, oh, well, I can't really share that with my spouse and I don't know what to do, because you need to be able to channel that energy. As you're having this awakening and these profound things are happening, you really want to process that with someone, or you want to share that with someone that you love. So if you don't have someone, and if you feel like, you can't share that with your spouse or significant other, creativity is what I would recommend. Press into things that give you life in a creative aspect. Find the balance within yourself so that those external relationships are more fulfilling when they do arise. But yeah, I don't know if maybe you're into any kind of art, anything creative. All of that is a perfect channel for those energies that are flowing. I love to paint. Not everybody's thing would be painting, and you don't have to be good at it. That's another thing. Just, if you just enjoy whatever you enjoy doing, whether it's painting or drawing, or maybe it's poetry, writing, maybe it's sketching, doodling, whatever. I have a friend who does, it's called knotting, where I guess.
Wood?
No, it's like, strings, like where you make like keychains or something like that, or like tying knots and whatever.
Yes.
It's a very creative.
And you can make those long things. Yes.
Right. So there's so many things you could do in a creative aspect. So yeah, you can journal too. A lot of people would find journaling helpful for getting that stuff out. So yeah, just find other outlets. It doesn't have to be another person. Just channel that energy in a way that brings you joy.
I think it's great. It's a great lesson for it not to be another person. I think that's, what's that old quote? Brandy, you'd probably know who said it, that the language of God is stillness, silence.
Oh yeah, silence is the language of God. All else is a poor translation. I think it's Rumi.
Yes. Rumi. I knew you'd know it. Well, also, this might be a good time to share this about community for anybody who is coming from maybe a church background where you kind of enjoy that regular meetup, but you want it in a different way now. And I am not sitting here encouraging anyone to leave their church. I think church can be a beautiful, great thing. But if you have found yourself on the path where that's not where the truth you're walking in resonates anymore, we're making plans here at Transcending the Rabbit Hole to start doing YouTube live streams. Maybe we're talking about every other week, possibly every other Sunday, where we can all just get together and talk, hang out, fellowship, maybe do a meditation together, a prayer together. We could have listeners submit topics that y'all want to talk about, that you're interested in learning about or just discussing as a group, and we'll talk about them. And even I was telling Brandy before we got started recording, I would love to do something with the kids. My background is as a children's minister in church, and I would love to share the children's spirituality, Christian spirituality blended curriculum that I'm working on writing. I'm taking the lessons I teach my own boys and wanting to share it with families. So we were talking maybe every other week we'll get together. We will spend some time with the kids, and then people who don't have kids join on the live maybe 45 minutes later, and we'll just have a really good time and be a community and walk with one another just in love and encouragement. And it wouldn't be church, it would be something totally different, but it might fill that void that you feel if you have had to walk away from church. So exciting things to come with that. So stay tuned, and please do follow along, because I see big things coming from that.
Yes, we have a lot of big things in the works, and we're not going to ask you for your money. We just want everybody to come and be a part of this community. Like Annelise was saying, on our path, we've found out that not many people are on this path and there's nowhere to go. If you're used to the church routine and the church scene and you want your kids to hear about Jesus and what we've come to know as God, this is perfect. This would be perfect because they would get a great lesson in. Like Annelise was saying, she's a church or was a church minister, church child's minister. And, it's just a great way to get your kids involved and also be a part of a great community that we're kicking off. And we just expect big things from it. We know big things are going to happen from it.
We're going to incorporate, I want to incorporate some music for the kids. Obviously that's my background, but I love leading children's music and just songs that honor, who we are calling God. I mean, that word is so limiting, but songs that honor God, the source, not songs that are seeped in, that Old Testament dogma that we are getting away from. So I'm really excited to share this stuff because I've been cultivating it with my own kids, and I have met moms who are like, I know I don't align with like what the kids are getting at church anymore, but I want my child getting something. This could be really great. So if you have kids, we'll do a little get together, and then later on we'll meet, kids or no kids, the adults meet, and we'll have a really good time just getting to know one another, talking about these things, supporting one another, and coaching one another through this, I guess. I think it'll be a really fun community that comes from it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about all of that. And I also want to say that if you're listening to this and this sounds like something you're interested in, please do reach out and let us know. Give us some feedback so we get an idea of who may be interested. And if you have other ideas, ideas to make it, better, please don't hesitate to let us know.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm so excited about this. I really am. I think this, we're a podcast, yes, but we're much more than that. We're not just a podcast. We're a collective. We're a voice for those going through this. And I just want us to be that light on the hill that Scripture talks about, but in a much different way, in a way that I don't see anyone doing right now. So we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as a collective. Oh, go ahead, Brandy. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as a collective of the three of us, as you've all seen by now, we all bring something different to the table. And through Transcending the Rabbit Hole, what we're going to get into, we're just going to make Transcending the Rabbit Hole very unique to what you've ever seen. It'll be three people that bring their different perspectives that are going to share their knowledge. And we're going to have things on the side, like Annelise was just saying. That maybe not even on the side. That's a bad word, but just we're going to incorporate that into Transcending the Rabbit Hole. And we're just going to grow from there. And, you guys are at the very beginning with us. Like, I mean, we're about to really kick this off. So,
Yeah.
Be prepared.
Yeah. Be prepared. Follow every page of ours. Follow Brandy, follow Annelise Awakening, follow Transcending the Rabbit Hole. Follow us so you can stay in the loop with all that we've got going on. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, we'll have workshops and things like that moving forward too. So lots of opportunities. Like Parker was saying, we all have different gifts that we bring. And so when we join together, there's exponential opportunities to create community, a space for people to connect. And see, that's the thing. We wanted to not only be a podcast, which we enjoy putting out content on this podcast, is things that we talk about anyway. So we thought, why not talk about them on a platform that other people can participate or listen and maybe benefit from the things that we're sharing. But also we want to be accessible. And so we want to connect and we want to create a sense of community. And so we're working on all kinds of ways to make that happen. And so I'm excited about it.
That's
Absolutely.
right. I'd love to find a way too, like to incorporate, like this summer I'm getting my sound healer certification. I'd love to incorporate that. And like, I don't know, we could, during meditation time, I could practice on those bowls, or we'll have a good time. I just can't wait.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about it.
It's so divine how God has brought us three together with the different giftings and the different backgrounds, because apart, I don't feel like we could offer what we can together. It's when we're together that now we can make a space for people just like us. And I just think it's such a gift, and I'm so grateful for it. And just so grateful for y'all and for y'all listening. Just thank you for being here.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
as as we're on a roll with these announcements, I want to also say with the social media stuff, I'm sure you've all seen the clips that have been coming out, the shorts. I'm going to switch that up a little bit. I'm going to have the clips come out on the day of the podcast launch. So this way, if you're confused or whatever about, you're seeing the clips, but the podcast isn't there, this way, I'm going to start releasing the clips on podcast day. That way everything kind of runs seamlessly and smoothly. So I just want everybody to know that.
Do you know when when our full episodes will be available on YouTube?
I'm pretty sure we can do it right now. We were on a month-and-a-half wait period to see if our channel kicked off or something like that. Something YouTube put on us, but I think we're good now, so we can start uploading all of our episodes and we can do YouTube lives. And
awesome. Nice. Well, find us on YouTube then. Probably by the time you're hearing this episode, find us on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
And we want to just say also thank you all for your patience as we, kind of iron everything out. This is a learning curve for all of us. And so we're trying to find what flows best and what works best. And so, and Parker's doing a jam up job with all of the social media stuff. So really,
thank you.
Kudos, to you for that, because that's such a gift. It's funny because, Annelise was talking about the community aspect of it and how it was kind of divine, the way that we all found each other. I was thinking about that. It was through that community between us three, the community that we found, in our relationship together as just being good friends, is leading to more community. And so it's kind of funny how yes, through community that will open up more community opportunities for others.
That's right. So great. I love it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but after today's episode, are we going to kind of dive down some extra deep rabbit holes? Are we going to be jumping into things like, what can we tell them what to expect? We had talked about doing dimensions, the multiverse, the the paranormal, really getting into things now that I feel like we've gone over kind of the basics of this whole journey. Is that right?
Yeah, we went from the way I look at it is we're on a linear timeline. If you look at it like that, we explored the past. We explored a lot of that stuff. We'll still talk about some of those aspects, but we're moving into more of what's happening now, what's happening today. All this crazy science stuff that's come out that aligns with spirituality to a T. And, things that spirituality said thousands of years ago that science is just not catching up to. Dimensions, multiverse, all kinds of things like that. It's going to be...
Yeah, I'm hoping Brandy's going to get to share more of her story and
absolutely
educate us on just the side of the paranormal, the astral realm, and just things are really just kicking off. Okay, so buckle your seatbelts, everybody. We're just getting started.
Yeah.
It's like the Star Wars thing where you see the lights go. Like that.
Yeah, 100%. That's because we were just laying a foundation with the early episodes that we did, because we wanted people to have some sort of idea of where we were going with things and to answer some of the questions people have, just kind of go ahead and get that out of the way. And so now we're going to be jumping into a lot more esoteric, mystical, paranormal. Yes. Quantum physics is going to, play into a lot of the things that we're going to be sharing. So I'm really excited about all of that too.
That's right.
And it all connects.
Intergalactic. I mean, just everything.
Yeah, the sky is the limit. So much that we could talk about. It's going to be hard to nail down just one topic each, for each episode. But but I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I guess unless you guys have anything else to add, I think this is a good place to wrap up.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you all for transcending this rabbit hole with us. And as always, cosmic blessings and peace.
Bye.
Sleep, 'cause distraction is key. But as long as there is still a sun up in the sky, I can choose to live on the sunny side. It's somewhere between burying my head in the sand and falling down the into the system. Now there's power to reclaim, but as long as there's a heart beating in my chest, I will cling to hope that's true. I will cast out the rest. There's no price on peace of mind. Oh, and you won't find it here. It's that perfect love above calling you near. I was sleeping just fine peacefully inside my American dream, awoken when those puppet strings were cut right off. The evidence you can't ignore. Sheriff call you misinformed. I know the truth, but trying not to lose my mind. I'm somewhere between burying my head in the sand and falling down the rabbit hole again. Keep on the sunny side.